Hello there, I'm Mr. Math Guy. Today we're going to be taking a look at a 10-minute video on function operations. And the four function operations that we're going to take a look at today are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Let's take a look at the first function operation, the addition one. It says if we have f plus g of x, it's simply just going to be f of x plus g of x. And you just got to remember these are just functions, f of x and g of x. And all the other function operations here kind of follow the same pattern. So my subtraction operation, if I have f minus g of x, it's just going to be f of x minus g of x. And then if I have the multiplication one, it'll be MIL f times g of x. This is going to be f of x times g of x. And my fourth one here, my division one, if I have f over g of x, it's just going to be f of x over g of x. So these four operations are pretty easy to figure out. Now, let's take a look at some examples and how these play out. Alright, so I have at the top of my screen three different functions. F of x is equal to 3x minus 4. G of x is equal to x plus 1, and h of x is equal to 2x squared minus x minus 3. And let's say I have a problem that looks like this, f plus g of x. Well, it's just going to be f of x, and I like to use parentheses, which is 3x minus 4, plus g of x, which is x plus 1. Now, you should just combine any like terms, so 3x plus 1x is 4x. And then negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. And so f plus g of x is 4x minus 3. Let's look at another example, f minus g of x. So again, you just plug in your functions here. So f of x is 3x minus 4 minus g of x, x plus 1. Now, be careful when you do the subtraction one so you don't, get confused, because it's a negative 1 that distributes through. Or it's 3x minus x, which is 2x, and it's negative 4 minus 1. So negative 4 minus 1 is negative 5. So f minus g of x is 2x minus 5. So here's an example of subtraction function operation. Alright, we've already looked at an addition and subtraction function operation. Now let's take a look at multiplication. So this is just f g of x. So it's f of x, which is 3x minus 4, times g of x, which is just x plus 1. Now it's a binomial times a binomial, so I'll need to FOIL. So first, 3x squared. Outside is 3x, inside is negative 4x. So 3x minus 4x is minus 1x. And negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. So fg of x, in this particular case, is 3x squared minus x minus 4. Let's take a look at the fourth function operation, division. So f over g of x, so it's just going to be f of x, which is 3x minus 4, over g of x, which is x plus 1. Now, if you can factor and cancel, you do so, but the numerator doesn't factor, nor does the denominator. So this is your answer. However, since you have a denominator, you can't have a denominator of 0. So we have to state then that x cannot equal negative 1. Because negative 1 plus 1 would give me 0 in the denominator, and that's not possible. So with division, sometimes you're going to have an answer that may be excluded. So x cannot equal negative 1 in this particular case. Alright, so we got three different functions this time. F of x is 2x minus 1, g of x is x plus 5, and h of x is equal to x squared plus 3x minus 10. So very similar to what we have been doing in the video. Problems might just be a little bit more complicated. So let's take a look at an addition one again. So this time let's say we have f plus h of x. So again we just say, well, this is f of x, which is 2x minus 1, plus h of x. And h of x is x squared plus 3x minus 10. Now let's add these things together. So we have common terms. We have x squared, and we have a 2x plus a 3x. That gives me 5x. And we have a negative 1 plus a negative 10. Negative 1 plus negative 10 is negative 11. So when you add these two functions together, in this particular case, you get x squared plus 5x minus 11. Let's take a look at another division one, or a subtraction one. We have h minus f of x. So it's h of x, so you have to put it in the right order. So h of x, this is x squared plus 3x minus 10, minus whatever f of x is going to be equal to. And f of x is 2x minus 1. So you got x squared minus no x squared, so you get x squared. And you have 3x minus 2x. That just leaves you with 1x. And you have negative 10 minus negative 1. So when you minus a negative, it's really add the opposite. So it's negative 10 plus 1, which is negative 9. So x squared plus x minus 9. Now let's do another multiplication one. So we have f times g of x. So it's f of x, which is 2x minus 1, times g of x, which is x plus 5. And again, I got a binomial times a binomial, so FOIL. So 2x times x is 2x squared. Outside is 10x, inside is 1x, negative 1x. So 10x and negative 1x is 9x. And then outside, or last, negative 1 plus 5, times 5 is negative 5. So it's 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 when you do this multiplication problem. Let's do another multiplication one. This time we have f times h of x, or f of x times h of x. So f of x is just 2x minus 1, and h of x is x squared plus 3x minus 10. So we got a binomial times a trinomial. So we need to distribute each part through. So 2x times that is 2x cubed. 2x times that is 6x squared. And 2x times that is negative 20x. Now, distribute the negative 1 through. So this times that is negative 1x squared. This times this is negative 3x. And negative 1 times negative 10 is going to be positive 10. Now, combine like terms. So I have 2x cubed, right there. And then I have a 6x squared minus a 1x squared. That gives me 5x squared. And then I have a negative 20x and a negative 3x. So it's negative 23x. And then I have the constant down there at the end, plus 10. So I have 2x cubed plus 5x squared minus 23x plus 10 when I multiply f times h of x. Let's look at a division one, h over g of x. So it's h of x, which is x squared plus 3x minus 10, over g of x, x plus 5. Now, you might be thinking that's your answer. However, if you can factor and cancel, you want to try to do so. So this numerator does factor as the product of two binomials, x. If I have a plus 5 and a minus 2, that gives me negative 10 and also gives me the 3x. Now, the reason I do that is because you can see that the x plus 5's cancel, leaving me with x minus 2 as my answer. However, since I started with a denominator, you're going to have maybe an exclusion because x could never equal negative 5. Because negative 5 plus 5 would give me 0, and you're not allowed to have a 0 in the denominator of a fraction. Thank you for watching. God bless.